So we're going to start recording. Tonight's our sprint prep, first one for Q2 and for April, which is exciting. This is one of the things I geek out about and get excited about is when it's like a fresh start. It's like one of the things in sales that you kind of just are like, no day equals my week, no week equals my month, no month equals my quarter, and I feel like a new quarter and a fresh month is like, if you're not prepared for it, it can feel like a letdown too. Like we were just talking about, Angie, before we started recording. And so I want to try to help everybody to kind of, for everybody's businesses, at least I feel in this group, are kind of like all after kind of the same goal. You're in the beginning stages, trying to find a rhythm, trying to figure out like, what am I offering and how am I actually approaching these projects that are hopefully getting me to a goal of some point. So I wanted to talk today about like a 13-week kind of roadmap for a quarter and how your sprints will fall into that roadmap. Something that you all are going to see in my social media this month actually is I feel like we've gotten very lazy with the fact that GPS is a thing, that we can plug in the directions to someplace and we immediately receive the path. And then along the path, we're told exactly where to go. And I feel like many women entrepreneurs are also kind of waiting for that GPS to be like, this is where I want to go. Show me the way. And so what I've learned is that those who can figure out that, you know what, I can say this is where I want to go, and I can kind of take from what I see other people are doing, but I'm the one who actually has to create that map. And that's what your sprints really are, is that they're those little intermittent things in a quarter or in your sales year that are basically the directions to get you to where you need to go. So we're going to talk about this thought of a 13-week map and how you can break down goals within that map and then what becomes your sprints within those goals. All right, that makes sense. So the one thing that I try to think about in a quarter is what is the end results I want to happen by the end of a quarter. And I usually pick 3. All right. Now, when you're in the very beginning stages of doing this, I would say don't beat yourself up if all 3 aren't achieved. If you find that in your quarter you can only focus on one of those goals, think about it as in, I only have time to go on one trip this quarter. Don't beat yourself up, but I would say think about doing, picking 3 to get yourself in that habit. And then if it ends up that just one of them is the one you focus on, that's okay. Those other 2 can be something that you just, like with your sprints, they just go on to the next quarter and you give them a try the next quarter, prioritize them. So do you have something that you would like to see as an end result, Angie, by the end of, in 13 weeks, that will be July 2nd. So I know when we're talking the 10-year vision, everybody was having a freak out. Now we're only talking about 3 months away. But, the start of July, what would you like to see happen with Tilly's Tales?
I definitely, I want to have in place, affiliate links and have that, I just want to have a better plan right now. Right now, I kind of feel like I'm still floundering and it's just been how it is right now. But I'm really hoping I'm going to get my taxes done this week. And so then I'm going to be like, okay.
Well, now's the time for the better plan, sister.
So
I think getting yourself on the trajectory of having some goals for July will make you have a better plan.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely.
Can I just clarify a little bit about your affiliate links? What do you mean when you say like you want to get those posted or in order,
Yeah.
or what are you going for? What's your target there?
Well, I guess I just want, I want to figure out who are good companies to work with. And like, and figure out like, because I found out today that like Ancestry said they didn't approve me, so I don't know why that is. And like,
Okay.
yeah, so like, just trying to like, I don't know, figure out where.
So something that I've realized, even for me, like I've tried to um, do some other affiliate partnerships,
Mhm.
and they have said no because of the amount of followers that I have.
Mm.
So like I have 500 on pretty much most of my platforms.
Mhm.
So I don't know the numbers that these people were like, so nope, sorry. But most likely it's following.
Okay.
And so like they're looking at like what's the biggest bang for their buck as far as like presence.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you might want to think for yourself, which is a bummer, but it's also kind of like, what are some ones that people don't know,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And so I would say one of your end results for, by July 2nd
Yeah.
is that you have in place at least three. I always go with the odd number. I don't know why I do that.
Mhm.
But at least three
Okay.
affiliates
Mhm.
that you feel confident in sharing. All
Mhm.
right. Um, so that's kind of like the one end result,
Yeah.
and so I would maybe do a little bit of research. I think part of what with your affiliates, and I know for myself, I needed to clearly define who my audience is.
Yeah.
All right.
Working on that more and more. Doing that, really trying to hone in on that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And so I would spend some time looking over who is your audience, and then deciding for yourself, are there affiliates that maybe they're not ancestry oriented, but they would just be tools or inspiration or a piece of the puzzle for someone who is your target. And like kind of like what I'm thinking is maybe one of those like scrapbooking companies that allows you to download your pictures on online and create a book,
Mhm. Mhm.
that isn't necessarily very specific to ancestry,
Mhm.
but it is a piece of the puzzle. If your market is someone who wants to go and create gifts or things regarding their
Right.
heritage, right?
Mhm. Totally.
So
Like
yeah,
the
I would.
journals. I mean, because I talk a lot. I try to,
Yep.
because of the origin. How it originated with my
Yep.
grandmother's journals, and
So I would say that's definitely a brainstorm for you to sit with
Okay. Yeah.
and just kind of, I would look at your key customer first and think about what are the tools, what are the things they enjoy,
Okay.
and then because you already have one, correct, which is basically the ancestry stuff that you were the
Heredis.
Heredis, yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not getting anything from them. I mean, I just have, you know,
Well, but I think they gave you things to give for free,
it,
right? They gave you things. So
right. And they've
what
already, I mean, like, I have connections there. So,
and I would
it's
say that I would want you to look at that as an affiliate,
okay.
because like knock knock stuff for me, I
Mhm.
don't get anything from people buying from them,
Okay.
but they do send me free product twice
Yeah.
a year. So I can use that as giveaways. I share them. I use them myself. So Heridas is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Okay.
For you.
Yeah.
So I would look for 2 others.
Okay.
And maybe one of them is that you get some type of commission from it.
Okay.
Maybe they both are, like it's really determining, it has to be worth you sharing it to your audience.
Yeah.
So I would sit and think about that. The next thing that you want to ask yourself there with like the affiliates, like I want to have 3 affiliates determined for Tilly's Tales by July 2nd, is to then tell yourself, why is it important for you to achieve that goal?
Okay.
All right. Tell me, why is it important for you to have affiliates, Angie?
I mean, I think, partly is so I can generate some sort of money support from it. But I think, really in the case of Heridas, it's a product I like. And and I felt proud to share that with other people. And they were, when I told the people, and literally I just gave it to like anybody who signed up for my giveaway. So, but everybody was a winner. But that they were so excited to because they are interested in starting to have something on the computer, but they don't have anything, so that made me feel really good that I was helping people get.
Right. And so I maybe would want you to reframe that because I don't feel like affiliates are your monetary generation. They are additional.
Okay.
But I personally feel like you're moving towards the point of, and I don't want to put ideas in your head, but moving towards the point of like, what is Angie's product?
I know. Yeah.
All right. And so I just know from personal experience, none of my affiliates provide me the income level. I share them because exactly what you're saying. I either enjoy the product or I know it works. Or, it's something I enjoy seeing other people enjoy. So unless you plan on having your business being all affiliates and you having, a couple dozen of them,
right.
I think that it's smart to think about what are my 3 main ones for the rest of 2018 that I'm going to focus on and build partnerships and relationships with. But I don't want your reason to be to generate the money, I don't think.
Okay.
Because I feel like that puts you in a safe place, in a comfortable place.
Come on, Jenna.
Because I get it.
No, I know you do.
I think you have so much more to offer.
Yeah, I know you do. I know what you're coming from. I know, but that's why I get irritated with you.
At least we're honest with each other, Angie. We're honest with each other.
But that's the reason why you're in my life, so.
Yeah, because I just want you to think about, yes, they'll generate some money, which I think is super fine for that to be like a reason why. But and I guess like why I want to know, because I don't want to put thoughts or words in your mouth. Will it be okay for you by July 2nd of that being the big overall end goal?
No, I don't think that would be the only thing. No.
Okay.
I think that was like that's something that's been in my head, But
Right.
honestly, I don't think it's going to take me to July 2nd to do that. I mean, I think that's something that I could probably, if I push
Right.
myself, get done in a week. I mean, really.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know,
I also think like, hey, everything is on the timing that you want it to go.
right.
Right.
And
So, but I wanted to also just encourage or like make sure you know that I do feel like that is a smaller goal for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important one. I'm not saying it's not important, but I definitely think it's one of the smaller ones, and that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want you to just set that goal and not when you get to July 2nd be like, man, I could have done so much more, or that sort of thing.
Right.
You know?
I agree.
Because that's what happens with a lot of people with quarterly goals is they either set it way too high or they set it way too low.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the quarter and you're like, man, where did this quarter go? And why am I still where I feel I was at 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Or I bit off way more than I could chew and I feel really overwhelmed and burn out.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding a healthy medium between the two.
Completely.
Which is why we support each other.
Yeah. Exactly.
So with this, we want to think about progress goals. How are you going to, and this is where some of your sprints start taking form.
Mm-hmm.
And since we already know that Heritus is going to be considered one of your affiliates,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
by the end of, by the beginning of July,
Mm-hmm.
what's your vision for how Heritus is discussed or shared, or what would you want people to know about that by July 2nd, by the end of the quarter?
I guess I just would like to raise more awareness about them because, like, I mean, that was really the thing that I, from going to, the genealogy conference and working at their booth, is that their name isn't well known in the U.S. and just like,
right.
So I could, do something probably, showing people in a video, this is what, kind of like a tutorial or something that I could do on my own part, or just pointing people to their website. They have a really good website with their own videos. And but yeah, I think just really raising awareness would be, because they're a small company. They really are. That's why I was like, hire me.
Yeah, no, I think
to be your US representative.
yeah. So, and I think part of what that's an ask that you could have, at the end of 3 months, if you've done a really great job pulling people to, like if that's a goal, right? If that's what you would like, is that they actually pay you for people you refer to them.
Yeah.
Then proving to them that you can generate that is part of the piece of the puzzle.
That's true.
So what I would want you to do then is, after you've said the reason why and you've determined what your end result is, now we said, okay, one of our progress goals is to create awareness around Heritus. Mm-hmm. And you spit out a whole bunch of ways that you could do that. Tutorial yourself, sharing how you use it.
Right.
Taking them to the website and, giving them a, tour of their website. Okay. Sharing some of their videos. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. That's basically a sprint for you for the quarter, or maybe you choose to do that for just the month of April. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Maybe another way is, and you did say this, do a Facebook Live sharing more about working at their booth. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So those are all ways that you can build awareness around this affiliate and gain following for a very specific focused type of key customer, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is someone who does want to be doing their own genealogy, wants to be keeping it on their own personal computer, wants to keep it safe. All those things that you were telling me are an important piece of the puzzle for someone to want to use their software.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's one of your progress goals for the quarter, is to do that, since you already have that affiliate defined. The second progress goal is to report back with your next 2 affiliates, right? So, discover 2 other affiliates. So you need to break down, how are you going to achieve that? Finish my key customer.
Right.
And maybe, reach out for samples. That sort of thing. So breaking those progress goals down a little bit further kind of gives you those actions and tasks that are pretty much your sprints for the weeks. Like, okay, I need to finish my key customer. That's my sprint for this week. Okay, I need to create a tutorial to show people how I use Herodis. That's my sprint for the week. What's my end ask of that? My end ask is that I want people to go and, to comment on the tutorial, or to share Tilly's Tales with someone. So as you figure out what are those progress goals, then it's like, okay, what are the steps? Those are your actual sprints.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
It does. The more you describe it, the more it becomes clearer in my head.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big thing about sprints, is that I've said from day one, is it's an accountability process. It's a skill that you just need people to be talking you through it and repeating it with you.
Right.
But this is the way, Angie, that by July 2nd, you'll really have a very clear vision as to who are my 3 affiliates, how am I working with them.
Yeah.
I've made traction with my current audience. I've grew my audience around these 3 things, so that then when quarter 3 comes along, those are kind of like already, this is kind of how I look at my affiliates. I know where I can place them in and out of things without a whole lot of thinking about it. Like, it's kind of natural where I would put knock knock stuff. It's kind of natural where Seiko falls into things. It's, like where the best self journal falls into things. Like, it's natural how I share those, which I think is really important for affiliates, because it isn't your product.
Right.
It's someone else's. So, yeah. Do you feel like, now that you are looking at the breakdown of that, because I know, this is a thing, and I might have worded this wrong when we were talking about it, saying that this was a smaller, goal for a quarter. Now that you're looking at it and, all these breakdowns into different little sprints, do you see how something that can feel kind of small actually is foundational, good work for you to be doing? Hey, Jessica. Just
hi. Sorry, you heard me. Sorry.
You're fine.
You're fine. Yeah. So definitely take those progress goals that you determine, the awareness around Herodis, then discovered my 2 affiliates, and then I don't know, for a third progress goal that falls within that, I don't know if you would have a third one. It might be defining for yourself where these affiliates fit into your marketing structure. is there a certain time of year where I would talk more about Heritas versus another one of them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe you pull out your yearly calendar and say like, oh, it makes more sense for me to talk about this here, here, and here.
Yeah.
And that way you kind of can start having a clearer marketing strategy for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's the other thing that I'm really seeing with my sprints is that once I did it, I don't ever have to really, like, I have to do it again, but I don't have to reinvent it again, is basically, you know. So once you know, like, you have the tutorial for Heritas and you have all these things,
Yeah.
then you can recycle that content, Angie.
I know.
You know, and that's where the freedom in running your own business shows up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is if you know December is a good month to share this stuff, but December I want to take some time that I'm not constantly on my social media or I'm not constantly actively marketing. I already have all this content I created around my affiliate for Heritas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can just pre-plan that for that month because it's already done, you know? So,
Yeah.
so maybe finding your marketing content or your marketing strategy for the year of where those affiliates fit in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay. And then breaking that down into like, what are the steps there? You know, so kind of defining for yourself that. The next piece of this is then I write myself, so I'm doing this tonight yet with mine, is I kind of write myself a commitment contract, Angie.
Mm.
Because I found if I don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
I don't stick to it very well.
Yeah.
It's almost like as soon as I write, I, Genevieve Rose, commit to blank, blah, blank, blah, blank, it's like someone with an iron fist has wrote it in my blood. And so I usually do write, like, I, Genevieve Rose, do commit to having 3 affiliates fully figured out by July 2nd so that I can have a consistent marketing plan for my business. You know, like, that's how I word it. And then what I do after that is then I say, when I achieve this, this is how how it will help me improve, and this is what I'll reward myself with.
Yeah.
All right. So the improve part is super important because I mean, the reward part is important. That's like the trigger piece, you know, like you want something, so it's nice to reward yourself with something. But I do think the telling yourself what that means as far as how you've improved, that's a little bit more of a motivator too, is like when I go back and look at it, when I think about like, oh, I'm going to derail and go a different path than this, I kind of think about, well, I said I would do this and that's going to help me improve here in my business. It kind of pushes me to like stick with whatever I said I was going to do. Yeah. Because if you're already building that momentum, like we've talked about with the sprints, if you derail it, then all of that momentum to improve in that area is kind of lost.
Right. Well, it just shows that it's part of the puzzle that needs to fit.
Right. So. Right. And then the other thing that I usually do is like kind of define like the 3 things that I'll do each day to like make sure that that's part of my day. So that might be something like I'll get up first thing and get a shower, because I know if I get a shower first thing in the morning, I'm more motivated to do my job and feel more like doing it. Maybe it's that, you know, for you, like I'll spend at least, you know, 10 minutes a day on Heritage's site, you know, searching and finding other things that maybe I don't know are there.
Right.
You know, with you, it might be a little bit more of like researching. 10 minutes a day, I'm going to go on Pinterest. I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes a day to go on Pinterest and see what are people pinning for, genealogy, or, because that might show you some tools or techniques or journals that you aren't aware of, right? So maybe deciding on three things that you can do each day that like motivate you to get this done.
Yeah.
And it's just literally like at least 5 minutes, or at least 10 minutes, like nothing too intensive for me. Usually that's not like this past quarter I did, because I was trying to really focus on some mindset stuff for myself. So I would at least listen to Oprah's Soul Sundays when I took a shower, because I wasn't taking some of my goal for like self-care stuff was in my first quarter, and I needed something to like trigger that part of my brain to be like, take care of you, take care of you, take care of you, So that something like that, you can do too.
Yeah. Sounds good.
That helpful?
Very good. Yeah.
Awesome. Jessica, I see you giving someone the eyeball. She's like, hands on her hips.
Sorry. Trying to get the boys to bed.
Looking at the boys. That's what I figured.
Ah! Sorry. Good night. All right. Yes, dear.
Yeah, so what we're doing tonight, and this is what I was explaining to Angie and going through with Angie, is just like your sprints at the beginning of a quarter. I try to look at it as more of like a roadmap for 13 weeks. So what do I want to happen by July 2nd in my business? So I had you guys do like 10-year visions. Now I'm saying bring it down to 3 months. All right. And so
Can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
So what do you do? Because this happened to me today. What do you do when your company surprises you with like I knew there were things coming. We knew this. But today when I went in to my back office and stuff, yeah, there were surprises in there that apparently only upper leadership knew about and us regular folk didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, so how, I guess my question is, how do you incorporate, if you already have a sprint ready to go, which I don't, I'm so sorry, but if you already have a sprint ready to go, and you have this vision, even if it's for 1 month, and they throw something at you, surprise, and let's say, like today, the one thing is for another week, they're extending the hostess special from last month. The other thing, there's a couple other things that were special, like new today, like surprise today. So how do you build that in if you already have a set sprint of what you want to do, if you want to incorporate that stuff in?
Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes complete sense. And so like this is the question you need to ask yourself, is how important is it to your business that those things are shared?
Okay.
And the way that I determine that is, how is it related to my sprint? If it's not related to my sprint at all, immediately that tells me that it's not something that I need to make a huge deal about. That I could share it. I could share it on my VIP group or wherever I'm sharing, right? Or to past customers, I could take a little bit of effort out of my day and share it with my top customers, or however I want to do. But that doesn't derail my sprint. Once you determine what your sprint is, what your project is at the smallest amount, like a 2-week sprint, you want to be so extremely dedicated to that sprint that And direct sales it's a hard one for this because you have a company that is sprinting themselves, right?
Yes. Yes.
And they're asking you to fall in line with their sprints, but you have no pre-recollection of what their sprint is until they
Announce it. Right.
make the ask of you, right?
Right.
And so that's where I found it to be very difficult for people who do direct sales. It takes a little bit longer to get this concept of a quarter or a month plan and not allow all the noise to interrupt your plan. All right. But I promise you, the people who are leading, it might look, well, they're at the point where they can push that stuff down.
Right.
But at your stage that you're at in the very beginning pieces of your business is that you have to be so hyper focused on one thing for 2 weeks, a month, a quarter, in order for you to get to the point where you can then be like, oh, I'm going to share this and have people who come on board with it. Oh, I'm going to share this and people come on board with it. Because I was very specifically consistent with what my one things were for a period of time in order to build that momentum in my business to be able to push things out.
Okay.
So I understand, like that they sent things out and you want to share it, but I would be very having a clear vision for what you want. And that's what we're trying to determine today. Like by July 2nd, Jessica, what do you want from your business? And really determining for yourself, like, this is what I want. That's what I'm working towards. And if one of their things that comes out falls into that want, then you think about how am I implementing this into my sprint. But if it doesn't fall into that, then it's just kind of like, oh, that's extra stuff. If I have time to share it today, I will. But if I haven't completed my steps for my sprint, then it's not something I'm thinking about until I complete those things on my sprint.
Good deal.
All right. That was a long explanation, but I understand where you're at. And I get that question a lot with my team too. It's just those people who are pushing it down have focused on their one thing for enough time to be able to be like, here.
Some of the stuff, and I actually knew about it, but they pushed some new stuff today to go along with it, would be like my next sprint. Like the next thing that I would work on would actually work well with the stuff that they gave today and a little bit before today. But
okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I know what I want to work on now. That would be the next thing I would want to work on, and this goes with that, but this is only a limited time type thing. I got to figure it out.
I get you, but there will always be another limited time thing.
Yes.
So you can't get yourself focusing on like this one limited time thing. Just, keep that in mind. I know it's hard because you're like, oh, this is a good deal, or I know there's people who would like this and that sort of thing. But like, if it does, let me just ask you this question. What do you want by July 2nd?
I would like to, two things. I would like to have a full schedule, and I would like to start growing my team.
Okay. So that's something where if you take kind of the concept that I was sharing with Mary Rose, I'm just writing down notes.
I have to go back and watch that. Sorry, I jumped in late.
Oh, no, it's okay. We can go through it together. And I know Angie, it would probably help Angie too to just hear it all over again. So she's good. You want to think about your results. Okay, so I usually pick up to 3 end results by the end of my 13 weeks. Okay. Mm-hmm. So like you have 2. So it's what I try to also explain is it took me a little while till I could get all 3 completed. Mm-hmm. So understand for yourself that you might get 1 completed and that's freaking amazing. All right. In the 3 months. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you might not have worked a little bit on number 2 or number 3, but you might not have fully gotten through it. So then just move that on to your next quarter because you're already building momentum in it.
Right.
All right. So you want to decide what are your end goals or end results for the quarter. So that's a full schedule and adding to your team. And if you wanted to do a third one, you could do that. But
well,
then
we talked about the third one last week when I said about $1,000 being consistent in my sales, like trying to meet $1,000 a month, which I almost did last month. I was $100. No, I wasn't even $100 shy. I was like $54 shy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but
no, seriously, it'll come. I'm serious. You just got to keep focusing on it. So a full schedule, I would kind of get a little bit more detailed about that. Like, what is a full schedule? All right, I would ask myself that question: what's a full schedule? And define that for yourself. Like, is that 4 shows a month? You know, whatever. And then add to your team how many. So how many people do you want? Do you want 3 by that point, 2 by that point, 1 by that point?
I'd be happy with 2.
Okay. So those are just some questions to like try to get that end result by the end of the 13 weeks as defined as possible, just like we do in a regular sprint.
Okay.
And then you want to ask yourself, why is it important to you? So, and write that down. You know, why is having a full schedule important to me? And just list all the ways. Why is adding to my team important to me? Why is having consistent sales of $1,000 important to me? And answer those questions for yourself. But then the big thing that comes from these, and this is what we'll do together, at least for the full schedule piece, is the actions and tasks, or like the progress goals that are part of that big overall quarterly goal. So how would you know you are making progress at a full schedule?
Even if I add 1 show a month on, because you know me, this is my busy time because the boys started baseball. I still think I can fit 6 shows in. So even if I don't hit 6 shows, as long as I add 1 on more than I did last month, that would make me happy. It'd be closer to my actual goal.
So adding 1 additional show a month.
At least, yeah.
Per month. All right. And so that's like your progress goal. So you know, like if by the end of April, you've added at least 1 more show than you had last year, you've hit that goal, right? So that's a sprint.
Last month.
Yeah.
You said
so that's, oh, sorry. That's a sprint. All right. So you want to take adding 1 show a month per month, and that's your sprint.
Okay.
So you want to break that one down then as like, okay, now how do I do that? Do I need to message my 3 people a day? Do I need to create some type of game for my VIP group? You know, like break all of that down and think of like different ways that you could set that up over 3 months, not just for, you know, like you could do it for 2 weeks, but that sprint is, I'm going to have this all set up that for every month of this quarter, I'm going to be promoting and talking about getting those bookings. So I have at least 1 new booking a month, because that's helping me get to the point of having a full schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And then, you know, maybe another thing, so you could have another progress goal for the full schedule is, how else can you fill your schedule other than like, you know, adding 1 show a month?
Having my own show. We're allowed to have our own show, so I could have my own.
Okay, so host my own event. So there's another sprint. So break that down. Is there a theme to the event? When would I have it? Is it something I'm doing every month or just 1 time during the quarter? So there's another sprint towards that overall goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about another thing for having a full schedule? I can give you a hint. There's something coming in my brain. Do you have any like vendor events for the spring planned?
Yeah, actually, I have one that we're setting up through my church. Wink, wink. We're gonna have one, yeah, at the end of May. So I'm counting myself in for that one.
Okay.
And I did see another one in June, but I have to find more information out about it.
So vendor event prep. All right. That's another sprint. So like, how am I focusing on getting bookings at the vendor event? What's my display look like? What's the plan, the strategy for the boys, while I'm at the vendor event?
Right.
So that's what happens is you take that progress goal and then you go and the overall goals, and then you break that down into progress goals and those progress goals. So by going to those 2 vendor events, I will be doing the actions I need to do to have a full schedule, right? But then I need to break down how am I being prepared for those vendor events. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying.
What I'll do too, because I know this is confusing to see how it's set up, is I will post in the group. I'll work on it tomorrow, like a worksheet of what this looks like when I write it out. So that way you can kind of just plug in your answers for yourselves. Once you do that, Jessica, then this is where I write myself kind of a contract. And this is what I was saying to Angie, I think, when you popped in.
I heard that, yeah.
Is like, I'll say to myself, like, I, Genevieve Rose, commit to completing this overall goal for the quarter, to have a full schedule and a full calendar by January 2nd, right? And then ask yourself how will that help you improve? So that will help me improve because I'll be in front of more people. I'll end up having more sales, define that. Right. And then tell yourself how you're going to reward yourself. All right. Because, that's a lot of work, Jessica. I think sometimes what we do is we'll write down the first 2 steps, but then we don't break into like all the steps that fall into that progress goal, which is your actual sprint. That's why sprints are so good at keeping you on track. So if something pops in during your quarter that is all about bookings, that's worth your time because your overall goal is to have a full schedule. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's why I said you can have 3, but until you're in the process of normally doing sprints, it might be hard to feel like you can manage more than 1. But know that it's completely okay to not feel like you have to be on everywhere in this.
Well, and I think too, for me, it's hard just because I don't, like today I had off because of the weather, but, and I was actually able to work, I think for 2 hours I worked, on my business, which was good. But I don't always have that like leeway that's, I think the thing for me is I don't always have that leeway time. Like sometimes at work, yes, at work I can work. And I know that sounds silly, but
I get it.
But there's times that I can't. There's times, you know what I mean? Like I have to, it's kind of, time management plays a big part in my business at this point, and trying to figure out when I can fit like the important parts in.
Yeah, and so that's why I say this is probably the most important thing you'll do all month.
Okay.
I know that it's the most important thing that I'll do all month is to sit down and do all of this and break it down to know what are my sprints for the next quarter. Because once I do these sprints, and I hope Jessica's still here. Are you still here, Jessica? Because you froze. Uh-oh. Hopefully she comes back. That stinks. I'll just keep going, but hopefully she catches the end of the recording. But the reason this is the most important thing for me is that it truly does help me manage my time. Because if I only have, 30 minutes one day because the kids are sick or something happens, I can go and look at my, sprint and be like on a Sunday night and go, okay, I need to break down. My sprint is I want one show added a month for the next 3 months. All right, I need to break that down. And now I know what are my steps to do on the days where I'm not quite if you know what you need to do. I guess that's the point that I'm trying to get to. Because that's the GPS piece, is that we're so used to just plugging something in and being directed exactly where to go. But in your business, you're the one directing. So if you're not taking the time to sit and create the directions, you're going to feel like you're constantly not getting someplace because you're just filling in the map with things that aren't getting you anywhere. So, Jessica, I'm sorry that you got kicked off or frozen or whatever, but I'll post in the group a worksheet tomorrow so that you can fill this out. And for anybody who missed tonight, if you watched at least the first half with Angie, or you stayed with us the whole time, you got to hear me go through it twice. And so I'll post the worksheet tomorrow. I'll make a worksheet for everybody. Friday, we will have a social sales strategy hour before I leave, and we will have one more sprint call on Monday before I leave as well. All right. I promise you I'll be here on the 9th for you all. And what I'm hoping is that all of you can at least get one of these overall goals mapped out for your quarter so that you can clearly know these are my sprints that I'm working on so that we can support each other with that over the next three months. Sound good?
Wonderful.
Awesome, Angie. Thanks so much for coming.